We're going to have a meeting with Russia. Start off with Russia. You're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy.
Massively complicated. Cover on the board here. It is August. What do you do in August? You go to Alaska and hold a summit. That's what's slated for this coming Friday with Trump and Putin on the 15th of August. What will they do? What will they talk about? Jack Keane is going to join me in a moment on that, okay? See whether or not we can move the ball. This is the, where do you meet, right? Like, what's even ground? Well, from Moscow to Alaska, it's 4,300 miles, and from Washington, D.C. to Alaska, it's 3,400 miles. So it's reasonably equidistant between the two, so it seems pretty reasonable here. This, however, is Ukraine, and this is the heart of the matter. You see everything in blue? Everything in blue is what the Ukrainians have recaptured. Everything in red is what Russia controls right now. In these areas, right, with the stripes through the red, that was taken by the Russians in 2014, so they've held that territory for 11 years. Everything you see in solid red is what they've acquired ever since. And Ukraine, pretty sizable country. If you were to lay that over the United States, you're covering like eastern Missouri up to, eastern Maryland, Ohio, down to northern Georgia. So it's sizable, it's significant. Jack Keane's with us now. And General, good morning to you. I know you know all the players, and you've talked to them again over the weekend, I am certain. Can we move the meter in this meeting? Or is Vladimir Putin just tapping President Trump along again? What do you think?
Well, we don't really know. Certainly, there was some initial confusion over what really was the Putin offer. And after a couple of days of sorting through that, I think we got a clear understanding of it now. He's willing to go to a ceasefire, but Ukraine would have to give up the remaining parts of the Donetsk Oblast that you had circled, and the remaining part of Luhansk, which is just only 2%. But when you take a look at the Donetsk Oblast, inside there, in the part that Putin wants, is the so-called fortified belt. 5 Ukrainian cities, all fortified along a 50-mile route on Highway 20, that he has been unable to take, going all the way back to 2014 and for the last 2 years. Why does he want that? Because if he's able to take that territory, to the north of that is open, non-defensible terrain that leads right to Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine. So if Putin could get this conciliatory, not having to fight for it, go to a ceasefire, you know he's going to violate a ceasefire. He has always violated them in the past, and he would be in a much better position to really grab off some territory inside of Ukraine. So that's at the issue. And listen, I discovered last week, I didn't know it, but in the Ukrainian constitution, President Zelensky cannot give up land without the Rada, his legislature, approving it, Bill, and then he has to get a national referendum from the people to go ahead. Our constitution also restricts the president from doing that without congressional approval. So it's not surprising it's in there. Many of us just didn't know.
Okay, that's a good detail. Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. Talking about a land swap over the weekend, as you know, Zelensky's saying that ain't going to happen. Here he is on Saturday. Watch.
No one will retreat from this, and Ukrainians will not give their land to the occupier. Any decisions that are against us, any decisions that are without Ukraine, are at the same time decisions against peace. They will not achieve anything. These are dead solutions. They will never work.
That's his position as of today. The vice president was with Maria on Sunday. He says Trump's the only one who can make this thing work. Watch.
I actually don't think it would be that productive. I think fundamentally the president of the United States has to be the one to kind of bring these two together. We're, of course, going to talk to the Ukrainians. I actually spoke with the Ukrainians this morning. Marco has been talking to them quite a bit. We're going to keep that dialogue open, but fundamentally, this is something where the president needs to force President Putin and President Zelensky really to sit down to figure out their differences. We, of course, condemn the invasion that happened.
Okay. What's the risk for President Trump that you see here? You get together and nothing happens, then you have to ask yourself, when do we talk again? What do you think about that, General?
Yeah, sure. Well, just one other thing first. I mean, a key meeting took place in the UK on Saturday. The vice president was there, the foreign minister from the UK, other European nations represented, the Ukraine's, much of our national security team, not all present, but on the phone at least, Rubio, Kellogg, Witkoff, etc. And they came up with a counter proposal proposed by the Europeans and the Ukrainians to Putin's offer. And that is that the discussions in Alaska should initially be just about a ceasefire and not any territory whatsoever. And if we can get a ceasefire, then move to discussions towards end of war. How do we do that? What's the framework for that? What are the security guarantees for Ukraine? The United States delegation was favorable to that. President Trump has been briefed on it by our U.S. delegation, by the president of Finland. The Europeans are going to talk to the president on Wednesday about this as well. Our strategy is a work in progress. As to the summit itself, where is Putin coming from here? One, I think he gets a lot out of this in terms of legitimacy in meeting with the president, regardless of where that meeting takes place. He gets a lot out of that because he's an international pariah. He's been committing war crimes, and he's been internationally isolated as a result of it. But what he's really after here, I think, is that he, under the cover of negotiations, he wants to delay these sanctions. I believe the president has got his attention, that sanctions and tariffs are coming. His economy is already in trouble, and it will be severely harmed with these tariffs and sanctions, in addition to military arms going to Ukraine. And what is Putin good at? We've seen it for 6 months. Under the guise and cover of negotiations, delay, 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 and stall. The president is on to this, Bill, and I don't think he's going to put up with it.
Okay.
If that's what Putin is pulling on him, I think he's going to walk away from the summit unless there's something really on the table about going to a ceasefire.
Really good analysis. Great for you coming on today. Thank you, sir.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.